Alright, context. The date is October 3rd, 2023. My buddy Thundertoes and I are on our smaller accounts, heading up the ranks in a ranked match with our newer team member, D. Lakshmi. We are in trio queue with two players we do not know, Scoots and Yu-Gi-Oh! Sao 2000. Nobody called the jungle, but we mostly have a good plan. I am heading top lane with D, and I am playing the role of the support. Wait a second. Yeah, you heard me right. I am supporting as Pikachu. You guys know I put that XP share on everything. But here, I'm not the only one who's made this connection. People have been saying for a while now that XP share actually works on Pikachu because he doesn't need a ton of levels to be relevant. And I feel like that has never been the case quite as strongly as it is right now, because that cursed incense is so good on the Thunderbolt build of Pikachu. Or even the slightly more spicy Thunder plus Volt tackle. However, I do not recommend that one if you're using the XP share, because you really want extra levels to reduce the cooldown on that Volt tackle. But yes, XP share, Cursed Incense, and Slick Spoon are my items on this Pikachu build. Full green-black emblem set. But enough about me. This video isn't about me. This video is about another player, here D. Lakshmi on Sylveon today, that is one of the newest members of our competitive team. We're starting to slowly rank up. And this is a player that a little while ago was struggling to win matches in Great Rank in solo queue. She's not as much of a gamer as Thundertoes and Sokovan and I, but we've started to notice some incredible growth. And I really wanted to talk about what that growth looks like in very general terms. Because the most important things to get out of that rut, to go from a beginner to an intermediate player that can head all the way up to Ultra, maybe even Master Rank, the biggest thing that makes a difference is understanding your Pokemon's strengths and your weaknesses, so that you know when to do things and, probably more importantly, when not to do certain things. So here, I did mention we're on our smaller accounts. We're not in Ultra Rank. We are somewhere more along the lines of the Expert Rank here. So, of course, we did take a piece of farm uncontested already. That probably should not have been a thing in higher ranks. So yeah, definitely, this isn't going to be the most competitive match you've ever seen. However, take a look at our jungle here. I did mention briefly at the start that nobody had called the jungle. Well, we have three bottom laners. My buddy Thundertoes is playing Lapras today. Not one that's been showcased on a video before, but Lapras is in a very good place in the meta right now. Surprisingly, there are no Mewtwo's in this game. Just thought I'd point that out. Mewtwo has not been nerfed in a meaningful way. Mewtwo Y, at least, at the recording of this video. That's still the meta hell. But Lapras, I believe, is an easy second place for the most powerful Pokemon in the game currently. But that's beside the point. What I'm getting at is that even though our opponents may not be performing at the highest level, our two allies aren't necessarily at the same level we are either. Okay, so now here's where the Lucario shows themselves. Now remember, I'm talking about strengths and weaknesses here. Sylveon's biggest strength as a Pokemon is that he is the maybe tankiest attacker. Attackers, when you think of those, you're thinking of Pokemon, at least I am, thinking of Pokemon like Alolan Ninetales, Gardevoir, Delphox, Chandelure, Pokemon that deal a lot of damage, and usually from far away, but they can't take that much damage. And among those, Sylveon is that attacker that deals less damage than everyone else, but can take more hits than everyone else, which is why players like, oh man, I'm blanking on the name, the top laner main from Secret Ship in Japan, the competitive team who plays Sylveon a lot. You run them as a top laner, not the XP share top laner, but the brawler, the bruiser, because it's just such a tanky attacker. Now at first, if you're learning the game, Sylveon's not going to seem very tanky, and that's the experience that D had, because you're not familiar with the positions that you're supposed to be in, which fights you can win, which fights you can lose. But Sylveon is a specialist in taking out other attackers, especially the special-based ones. So not so much a Pokemon like Decidueye or Cinderace, but definitely those ones I mentioned earlier, Gardevoir, Delphox, Chandelure, Alolan Ninetales, and that's because of Sylveon's Pixelate ability that's able to debuff their special attack alongside Mystical Fire as you dive toward them, being already pretty tanky, and them being the opposite of tanky means that you can actually pressure their HP, and the more you hit them, the less they hit you back, right? So let's take a look at this team composition. We've got Cinderace, that's an attacker, but it deals physical damage. The debuffs aren't going to work there. Lucario, he's physical as they get. He's straight up a close-range brawler. Aegislash, that's not a good matchup. That's a really hard-hitting brawler up there. Decidueye, much like Cinderace, yeah, he's an attacker, he's ranged, but he deals physical damage. And Leafeon, just a fast physical damage dealer. Look at that. There's absolutely nothing in the opponent's team composition that Sylveon is theoretically good into. So that's one of the things that I found attractive about this game, is that right off the bat, yeah, you can say what you want about the opponent's skill level, yeah, we're not in even veteran rank yet, yada yada, but we still have a player who is still striving to reach the level that we're at so we can perform as a team, and we've got no easy softballs in terms of matchups here. So we'll see what we can make of the cards that have been dealt to us. So we're definitely doing great on levels because they weren't contesting the farm against us, and they weren't even stacking. A normal Lucario should have run up to our goal and started stacking here. So that tells me they were probably a little disorganized in figuring out who their jungler was. Yeah, Lucario looks like he was... I honestly don't know. Well, some sort of problem leading up to this moment. Right? But this is where we are now. We're going to see how well we do at engaging. Now, Sylveon is not great in hand-to-hand combat, but Pikachu is going to be even worse, especially my EXP share Pikachu, because he's a supporter. Right? So that means my level is by default going to be a lot lower than someone who wouldn't have the XP share, and that is the cost, that's the price you pay for letting your lane ally get extra experience. So here, we're caught in a really interesting place here. Both of these Pokemon can rip our HP pretty hard if they focus down on us, right? And of course, Sylveon's got that Mystical Fire. I'm trying to zone, I'm trying to make dents in their HP so that they retreat, or the Sylveon can finish them off. And here they both double engage on Sylveon. He Mystical Fires out of the way, but the Aegislash is able to dash and kill the support. Now, because the sword is too low on HP, the Sylveon's actually able to finish him off, and you see the KO there. I was a little sloppy on the camera work here. But I'm running to get back my, what's it called? Held item? Is it held item? No, the singleton one. The battle item? I can't remember which is which. I'm using the eject button right now, so I can't X-speed back. Not that that would have been the greatest X-speed moment. That was a beautiful Electro Web by me, by the way. To save the Sylveon. You really gotta use whatever perks you get when you're playing support to help your team. Now here, if Sylveon had been healthier, she would have been able to get back into that fight faster, and we would have been able to hard punish that Lucario. But it was enough to scare away the Lucario, meaning we got the birds. Now this lane, we were doing alright before, don't get me wrong, but now we're doing crazy well, despite the fact that maybe we don't have the greatest matchup here. When Pikachu gets played as like a max damage ADC, you probably want to bottom lane him with a tank in front of him, because Pikachu is really deadly when he controls the space between him and the opponents. That's one of Sokkavan's specialties, because he is also a Pikachu enthusiast. But even though I did mention that Sylveon is really tanky for an attacker, that still does not translate to being all that tanky in relation to the whole game's worth of Pokemon, right? He's definitely not a tank. And so I can't just hide behind the Sylveon because I don't have any healing and I can't protect them from dying. So that causes me to be a little bit closer than I would have otherwise liked to be, and that combined with the fact that I have an XP share and don't get as much levels as I should, combined with the fact that I'm not exactly a Pikachu main, this means I'm going to be dying quite a lot. Luckily, it's always better for you to die as the XP share carrier than the person that you are supporting. And that's going to be key in this game. is that one of Dee's greatest strengths that she's evolved in her, I guess, career as a Pokemon Unite player is this newfound ability to be really good at surviving. Here I come. I had to do the walk of shame back up to my lane for the second time this game. But I'd rather it be me than my fed Sylveon. Because for those of you who don't know, if you die and you are a higher level than your opponents, they get a bunch of extra XP for killing you. And I believe the way that things work is that the higher of a level you are, the more exponential that bonus to XP is going to become when you do get killed by a lower level opponent. So the level 4 guys killing a level 4 Pikachu was nowhere near as catastrophic as if they had killed our level 6 Sylveon. So great on D for staying alive there. And so it's important, if you don't want to give your opponents catch-up XP, to always be good about picking your fights, not going into fights that you are going to lose, or even the ones that look 50-50-ish. You really only want to engage when you think you can win, or you think you can disengage pretty easily. So here's where I finally switch perspectives. Thundertoes has been juggling. Our Cinderace player did eventually go back into the jungle, or go into the jungle for the first time, I should say, at some point in this game. And I can't blame newer players for not knowing everything about the meta. It's a tricky game to play absolutely perfectly, and no one in this game plays perfectly, certainly not me. But we do play well, and it's important to appreciate the things that you do well, because even if when you lose, there are constructive things that you can think, right? You can focus on just all of the rotten luck you've been getting, or you can focus on actually finding out what the problems in your play were, and finding out what you actually did well, and how you could put yourself in more situations like that. So there's a big mess over in their jungle, but because it is in their jungle, that means we are the ones pressing, so that's really good to see. This Lucario's trying his hardest, but unfortunately the XP gap just keeps getting wider and wider between our side and the others. And his lane partner wasn't here to support him. If they had had the sword here, it would have been a much scarier deal. But we had split them up, and this is something that tends to break newer players, is that when you get split up from your lane partner in terms of who died first and whether there was a gap of time between the first death and the second death, that means that they're coming off death timers at different times and are getting back to the fight in the lane at wildly different times. And at this point, if they keep continuing to do that, they're going to be stuck in an endless cycle of a 1v2. If that makes any sense. Like, the Honedge right now went down to try and get some XP. That's a good idea from him. That's one of the ways that you can avoid the situation, is to just give up the fight, let your opponent score, and then just regroup and see if you can steal a kill there. Because look at our levels here. The poor Thundertoes on his XP share at Lapras is pretty low levels, but we've got a level 9 Sylveon, and it's not even the jungler. It's a laner. And that comes off of the amount of opportunities we've created to score, to kill the opponents, and the fact that we haven't died. Sylveon has been maximizing its time, not going back to spawn, but just continuously farming, continuously fighting the opponents, and continuously trying to score. And that equated to the top laner being the most fed Pokemon on the map at this point, despite there being less XP in terms of farm in the top lane when compared to the bottom lane. So now we're at the 7-minute mark, right? And the objectives are spawning. So now we've got a choice. We're a little late in terms of deciding whether to go bottom or not. We were just enjoying our victories here in the top lane, trying to steamroll the advantage as much as possible, trying to get this score here. And I think at this point we're talking about trying to delete the Lucario so that we can just score in some extra points. Because the longer we wait, that Sylveon's just going to accumulate a bunch of points. And the more you do that, the harder it's going to be to score, because the more points you have, the longer it takes to charge up to score, right? So we're trying to get this Lucario out of the way while they're split. He does retreat. At this point, we're a little slow, and I mentioned this in the game. We should have realized that he was going for both berries, and one of us should have intercepted to get the berries. Easier said than done, because we are in a flux zone, so our speed is reduced. But if we had realized this earlier, which was totally possible, we could have intercepted that second berry and gotten this done just a little bit faster. And of course, the only reason that's relevant is because every second is time that any other Pokemon on their team could have come up to the lane to support, and then our scoring opportunity would be lost, right? So even saving a couple seconds like that, it's good to think about for maybe next time. Cut off that option he has to heal, and we have him dead a little quicker, and then maybe we'll be able to score that 35, even if someone did try and come up and support at the very end. But luckily for us, that didn't happen, and so Sylveon is able to get back on the pad, score a huge number of points here. I'm not really interested in scoring my 2, I guess. Neither of us are really stacking. That isn't an option that's fantastic on either of these. So now, see, I called out this sword for having a really good idea for going back to farm before heading back up. He heads up a little late/early, probably early, if we want to look at it, because if he had shown up earlier, he wouldn't have been an Aegislash, right? He wanted to show up with a big power spike. And that's one of the concepts I'll touch on a later video, I think, because I think that's also really interesting, just knowing when each Pokemon's power spike is hopping up. So here you can see, if I backed up just a little, that the sword was coming up. We were trying to steal their Bunnelbys here while there's no one here, because when they come back up, they're going to want to farm to get more XP, and it's important if you have a choice to take the farm line close to your side versus close to the opponent's side, why not take away the safest farm that they have access to, right? Well, we get caught here. Aegislash is coming back at level 7. This shouldn't be too much of an issue, except for the matchups don't really favor us, right? Now, Pikachu really wants his distance. But this Aegislash is a tremendously powerful Pokemon in sword form, in its offensive form. It could easily pop, definitely me, possibly even the Sylveon. So here you see him dive in. Boom! Huge damage there. I'm already in trouble. I lay down a Thunder plus Thunderbolt combo, but the stun on Thunderbolt, or sorry, I guess the correct order is Thunderbolt, Thunder combo, but the stun on Thunderbolt is really, really small, and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get out of the way. So here, I was hoping, and I didn't say it in real time, I regret it, I was hoping that D would just run back to the goal and let me die, and then the Aegislash would be unable to catch up to the Sylveon before the Sylveon gets back to the goal. Because here, D actually turns around and tries to protect me, but there's nothing she can do. She can't kill this Aegislash before the Aegislash kills me, and there's no stun mechanic or heal mechanic that could change the outcome of this. So I'm just dead here. My eject button was on cooldown. My moves are on cooldown. This is just a dead Pikachu. Boom. And see, now I'm like, darn, I should have said something. If I had said something, the Sylveon could have just retreated to base, and Aegislash would have had a much harder time killing her from there. Well, to my surprise, Sylveon just makes it out. And part of this is the dash that Mystical Fire gives you, kind of turning the Aegislash around and not knowing where to attack. And then a huge part of that was Draining Kiss, which means that Sylveon is actually healing throughout that encounter. So here she's easily able to go back, get both berries. Aegislash realizes that the chance is over. Unfortunately, his partner Lucario does not realize this and stays to score. And he does have few enough points to where he can do it. And if he does have the attack weight, it's very important that he does start scoring, because they're falling behind. Look at that level difference. The Sylveon is closer to get to level 10 than the Lucario is to get to level 7. Of course, one kill on the Sylveon will change all of that, because the catch-up XP in this game, the mechanics make it very easy to catch up. So it's really important not to give them kills for free. So I wasn't watching this, of course, because I'm the Pikachu. I'm just coming out of spawn, right? And one thing that both of us missed here, as D was chasing down this Lucario, was that the Leafeon has come up from the jungle and is taking the objective. And that'll come up in a couple seconds, why that's so important. I would have been kind of worried that D is running back into the Aegislash, but it's distracted. Okay, D does not chase after the Lucario. She waits for reinforcements. I show up here. Now here, what I should have done, because I just came up here, I hadn't seen what was happening. D had a better chance to see what was happening, but it was just a little bit of tunnel vision on the Lucario that we just didn't see that the Leafeon and Aegislash were both on this objective. I pan over to see that it's being attacked, but I couldn't see the HP. So by the time I inch closer to be able to throw my combo, it's already gone. And man, I was kicking myself here, because if I had realized exactly where the enemies were, I could have run up as soon as I had gotten into that bush, and instead of stopping in that bush, run up, thunderbolted, thundered the objective, and I had a pretty decent shot at just stealing that. But it is what it is. the enemy secured the Regieleki. Here the Leafeon comes out. Oh my gosh. Pikachu gets clapped so hard. And this Leafeon's actually a level above me. So yeah, that's not a matchup that favors the Pikachu at all. So here I'm running away. This Lucario is running toward us. Ooh, dives straight past the Sylveon and knocks me out. That was actually kind of beautiful. Well done there. And so let's take a look at that XP actually, because I didn't remember that that's what had happened. I am level 9 and the Lucario, oh no, sorry, I'm level 8 and the Lucario is level 6. Take a look at what happens to his XP bar as soon as the Pikachu goes down. It almost goes up an entire level with the same, the bar at the same place, the same level of progression, because he killed an opponent who was higher level than him. Now the fact that he was a lower level than our XP share user means he was pretty far behind. But, I mean, that's... Sometimes you just have to wait until an opportunity presents itself to take advantage of the game's catch-up mechanics, right? Now here, this does not look good at all. Leafeon is one of these Pokemon that can put up a lot of damage very quickly at close range, and Sylveon is not a specialist when it comes to winning 1v1s at close range, right? Well, by the way, this Leafeon was on Leaf Blade Razor Leaf, which I don't think I'd recommend. Solar Blade does seem to be the meta, although I suppose if you're going to be a jungle Leafeon, it's not as important, because one of Solar Blade's biggest perks is how good it is at getting the lane birds, right? Because they're all in a group and Solar Blade hits really hard. But anyway, I got getting distracted again. This doesn't look good for our Sylveon protagonist, right? Oh, beautiful. Okay, so I was actually very curious. I remembered something about this game that made me think Sylveon doesn't die here, and I could not put my finger on why. It's because she uses Fairy Frolic. That's right, the Unite move. So here she uses it to save herself from the... It actually straight up kills the Leafeon, and now the Lucario has no shot. No shot at killing this Sylveon 3 levels above it while it has its Unite move up. Yep, the sword comes in, but it has no chance of killing the Sylveon through its Unite move either. The healing is just too powerful. And so Thundertoes is up here. You're getting a nice little gank from the bottom laner, and we dismantled the Regieleki before it even crashes. So not even the 20-point damage from the Regieleki got through. So even though we lost the objective, we stopped them from capitalizing on it in the slightest. So that was beautiful. Panned over down here just to see that there was action in the bottom lane. It's just... We were the top laner, so this is the part of the game where I wanted to analyze the most. It's funny that we lost the Regieleki and the encounter ended with the enemy goal being broken and ours still standing. Alright. So that was a really good Unite move from D there, because I'm sure this wasn't part of the thought process because there's just so many things to think about at some point there, but... Because Sylveon was at such a high level compared to the opponents there, imagine if that Lucario, if Sylveon hadn't united back then after the Regieleki had gone and the Pikachu had died, and the Leafeon just brought it down as low as it had, and the Lucario came in and finished it, it was 3 levels behind. That would have been an insane amount of catch-up XP, right? But it was denied because D stayed alive and didn't give that XP back over to the opponents. This is something that we're trying to play around the game's easy catch-up mechanics, which I think are healthy. It's good that the losing team doesn't just get steamrolled all the time. So here, I actually end up uniting the... Was that a Unite move? It was, wasn't it? Yeah. I tried to unite this Lucario. Why did I do that, actually? If we were carrying a lot of points, it sort of makes sense so that we'd give ourselves an opportunity to score. I think maybe I just wanted to unleash it on something so that I'd have it back for the Ray fight, because Pikachu does get his Unite move back rather quickly, but this was just a really strange place. You know what it must have been? Is that I just started feeling the pressure on my HP bar, because I think I get hit pretty hard by this Lucario. Yeah, I take a bunch of punches and I think I'm about to die, so I try to unleash whatever I can before I die. And I don't actually end up dying, I think. Yeah, I retreat into the bush after that, and we're able to kill this Lucario. I get stopped by the Leafeon, and this one does kill me. Dee's able to score her 14 points. And here, this is one of the situations. This is really funny. So... This Leafeon, is it still the case? No, it's not still the case that he's the highest level on the team. Aegislash has been doing really well at farming. This is one of those situations where Sylveon really excels. Now, what am I talking about? I already described that how Leafeon is not a good matchup for Sylveon because you don't want to fight physical attackers and you don't want to be at close range against physical attackers, and he's got higher HP than Sylveon. So, pray tell, what the heck am I talking about here? I love this sequence right here because it showcases the strength of Sylveon, especially the way that D plays this Pokemon, and I think the way it's supposed to be played. Alright, Draining Kiss gets it back. But Leafeon's moves keep chunking it, right? Now the Aegislash, it's out of field of view, but you can see its bubble on the minimap at the top left. It is also on the chase. Not far behind this Leafeon, that are trying their hardest to kill this Sylveon. Waiting for the... Oh, there's the refresh on the moves! The Leaf Blade, and then the Razor Leaf goes off at the same time as Draining Kiss, it appears. So the Sylveon's HP shot down and then slightly back up, and now the Mystical Fire dashes forward. Oh my gosh, it's so close! And we get here, and the jump pad has allowed Pikachu, me as Pikachu, to come back in. Now, this Sylveon was chased all across the top lane from one goal to another. And check out how this ends. Leafeon gets popped, Aegislash gets baited into the Flux Zone, and it's 2-0. 0 deaths for our side and 2 deaths for the opponent's side. So what happened is that way back here, this is where, if you're playing a Pokemon like Gardevoir, or Alolan Ninetales, right, or Decidueye, or one of those attackers that isn't Sylveon, this is an easy kill for Leafeon, and I think that is why the Leafeon and the Aegislash were so intent on capitalizing on this moment. Any other attacker is dead here. There's no way that this doesn't end in a kill, and they're so sure of it that they just completely overextend because they know they can get that kill, but they're wrong. The disengage on Sylveon, the combination of Mystical Fire and Draining Kiss just keeps it alive, and they come out of that situation with nothing to show for it but both of their deaths. That was just really cool to see, because it really is one of the underappreciated strengths of Sylveon. Its disengage options are just fantastic, to the point where it's a Pokemon that you can really see a situation and analyze it, be wrong about it. It turns out it's not as good of a situation as it looked like, and you can just get out of there. And the tools you have at your disposal make it really easy to do that. But you need to be experienced enough to recognize before it's too late that that's a situation you want to leave. So that was really well played by D there. I got a nice little freeze frame of the Emerald 2-step from Leafeon here, about to unite the Lapras. Unfortunately, the Unite move lands on this Lapras, because let's see how much damage it does. Yeah, that's still a Lapras. And if he had united on the Pikachu, I'm pretty sure I was dead there. But it had to catch the tank, unfortunately. Decidueye was coming down to steal. He had a good shot. That was honestly well played by the Decidueye, good positioning. I recognized it, and I tried to unload everything onto the Decidueye, and it kind of worked. It pressured him to move a little bit, and then it killed him at the very last second, and we were able to secure the Regieleki. So that was good vision on my part, realizing that the Decidueye wanted to steal that Regieleki. And now, deja vu. I thought I had rewinded to the last moment, actually, because it looked so similar. But this time, instead of 14, D gets an entire 50 on that goal because the Regi had broken. That's a great spot to unleash the 50 in. Now here, this is a really silly play. So I should have realized this faster. I went into the bush to hide, right? And I realized, oh, I'm carrying 40, and the Regi just landed in this goal. If I had scored here, when Sylveon's going, we kill the Leafeon, and I go retreat to the bush, and then I wait for a second, and then Sylveon scores, and then it hits me. Oh, I have 40, and it's an instant score. And I go to score. Nope, instantly crit by the Aegislash, who, again, feels like deja vu, is going for the Sylveon. Easy kill. Sylveon does not have good physical defense. That disengage, the Mystical Fire leap. Untouchable. Now, at this point, D's a higher level than she maybe has ever been in the games that I've played with her at this point in the game. This is we're halfway up to level 15, the highest point in the game. Part of that has to do with me having the XP share, yes, but more than that, it has to do with the fact that this Sylveon has never died. There's the Emerald 2-step again. Oh my gosh, is it landing on the Lapras for the second time? Yikes, that's such bad luck. That move is so good at deleting squishy targets, and it's unfortunate that both times he used it, it landed on the thickest thing it could possibly land on our team. Oh, it feels bad for that Sylveon player. Ooh, hold on. That was not far back enough. Oh, Sylveon's jumping into the air. Yeah, they both unleashed the Emerald 2-step and the Fairy Frolic at the same time, so they both united here, which is really funny, I thought, because this Decidueye is also uniting here. By the way, so this is 30 seconds before... Oh, 30 seconds before the raid. This is an interesting spot to unite. Now, if it were 15 or less seconds before the raid, you could make the argument that whoever wins this team fight just gets to the Rayquaza and rips it, right? But it's still far enough in, or not, don't know how to word this. There's still enough time to where a team can get completely wiped here and still be back at the Rayquaza at the time it spawns. So this is an interesting place to be fighting. I guess we're just reacting to each other. We see that there's a lot of danger here. People don't want to die, they want to get kills. So we see a double unite from the Evolutions here, as well as a unite from the Sylveon in the grass. He really wants to get them. But again, that level 10 Decidueye is incapable of doing anything to a united Sylveon 4 levels above it. And not to say anything about the Lapras, who, geez, is just one of the craziest tanks in the game. The Leafeon is not long for this world, unfortunately for him. Now, Lapras does go down to this Lucario, who's level 12 now. Not bad, but the Cinderace and Sylveon are able to rip it here. Kudos to this Cinderace, who looked like they didn't really have their head in the game at first. They were the only ones to not call their lane. They didn't go to the jungle. They left our jungle open. But, you know, looking at his level, he just put in a little bit of work there. He's helping out for sure. Now, the Zacian over there is in their jungle, being an absolute menace, but maybe not at the absolute correct time. Now, if he were doing this while we were ripping Rayquaza, that'd be awesome. But the problem is he's going to get killed here before we get to the Rayquaza, which means that the enemy team has an easy kill on one of us. And now they go to gather on the Ray, right? And so here, I realize there's a lot of them in one place. Let's pull out the Thunderstorm and see how much damage we can deal. And I do remember I deal a lot of damage here. Jeez, that Sylveon's level 15. That's so cool. So there's the Unite move. There's the Thunder. There's the Thunderbolt. I kill one, leave another one just barely hanging. And I think he gets killed by the Cinderace. Is that what happened? Boom, boom, boom. See that? This Lucario right here. Yep, the giant fireball from the Cinderace. So we take out 3 of them here. And at this point, the Sylveon and the Cinderace start taking out the Rayquaza. And, of course, decent communication with Thundertoad here, who's chasing off the Decidueye, which is perfect. The Decidueye's steal potential is not something that we want anywhere near the Ray Pit. And we know that he used his Unite move, right? So he can't just fire off from far away. So he's running in terror from this Lapras. Decidueye can't do anything to a Lapras with a level advantage. Leafeon comes in to help, but even the 2 of them combined can't do enough to take down Lapras. And yeah, Cinderace has very strong rip, and of course the Sylveon was there supporting, being level 15. This is incredible. I have very, very rarely seen, can't remember another time when D has gotten to level 15 in a game. And it all comes down to how well she managed staying alive in this game. Not so much for her own level, that's important, yes, but the levels of the opponents are so low compared to ours. And that's because they were denied that catch-up XP that killing one of our over-leveled Pokemon would have given them. And that was all thanks to D. And then, of course, Cinderace has gotten a lot of catch-up XP near the end, so has Zacian. But at any point of this game, had they killed that Sylveon, they would have creeped up in levels, gotten a lot closer to us, and really been able to hammer us, potentially, because, as I said at the beginning, this was not a good matchup for Sylveon to be in. So, you really got to look at your strengths and weaknesses, right? You acknowledge that, okay, at 1v1, A lot of these Pokemon can probably rip a Sylveon. In fact, most of them could probably rip a Sylveon, let alone if it's a 2v1 against the Sylveon. So as long as you know that, you have the disengage options to not let that fight happen. And that's exactly what D was so good at doing throughout this game that made me really want to record it. Now, I was chuckling a bit at the Lucario here because this is something that I've definitely been guilty of doing myself, is that when you're on the jump pad waiting where to decide where to jump, and you see someone come to your base, you like click on the base and the game just sends you to the nearest spot. So he just jumped away from the Sylveon. D made a comment about that too, about how the Lucario just jumped right over her. Yeah, no chance through that Ray Shield, level 15 Sylveon. Of course, at this point, anyone could be handed our controllers and win this game, but it's the steps that we took to get here in the first place that were really worth noting. That Sylveon scored a whole bunch and actually got quite a few kills. And really, really proud of our baby team member D here. Hopefully we'll be seeing a little bit more of her in the future, and I hope you guys took away something from this video. I know I certainly really enjoyed this game myself, despite not being one of the key players. I'm more of a tank player than a support player, as you guys know, but I can't let go of my darling XP share. Anyway, I'll stop rambling now. Thanks you guys for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.